with a long to-do list that includes raising the debt limit and funding the federal government. But first, lawmakers will vote on an initial request for nearly $8 billion in disaster aid for victims of Hurricane Harvey. The House is set to take up that measure tomorrow, and joining me right now from Capitol Hill is House Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy. Majority Leader, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us, Congressman.
Well, good morning, Maria.
And welcome back. You just returned from Texas, where you toured some of the damage. Can you tell us what you saw?
You know, I've spent the last 3 days touring the southeastern portion of Texas. Some of it is just devastated. Some of those small cities, their water towers are wiped out, the schools can't start. But the optimism that I find with each place I went to, it is amazing. They've gone through now the search and rescue portion. Now they're beginning the rebuilding of it. And I saw the best of humankind. Families would come from other states just to feed people, to provide clothing and others. And the whole community getting together and working. I would find first responders that have not been home this entire time, even though their house is underwater. The way people have given back to one another shows that we will rebuild and actually be stronger.
Well, this is obviously something that nobody expected, and this is a real devastation, and you saw it up front and up close and personal. Tell us about paying for this. The president is asking for $8 billion in relief money. Steven Mnuchin, the Treasury Secretary, is calling on Congress to tie the Harvey aid to raising the debt ceiling. Are you willing to do that?
Well, what the Treasury Secretary, and it's not just him saying it, Mick Mulvaney, the OMB director, the president are saying it. And it's not they're saying it just to put it out there. We have to deal with the debt ceiling regardless if Harvey even arrived in America. And now we're asking for more money to provide for FEMA so FEMA does not run out of money. So all they're looking at are the simple numbers. And if you pass the legislation, which we will do tomorrow, we go in session tonight. Wednesday morning we'll pass relief to make sure FEMA has enough money to get moving right now while the cities and counties get the estimates in so we can provide more resources as we go further in understanding of what all the problems lie forward. But you're going to hit that debt ceiling regardless. And they're afraid what Mnuchin is telling us, if you pass just the supplemental, they may not be able to put the money forward without having the debt ceiling raised. And the thing that I look for is this is an issue we're going to have regardless. So it's not one that you run away from. And really what you want to have happen, Congress has been successful in capping discretionary spending. Unfortunately, on the Senate side, we did not get health care reform done yet, which would do something about entitlements. And now we've got to move to tax to actually get the economy growing. That's the way we're going to start paying off our debt. And once we pass that budget, always Republicans have been able to do that. And our budgets actually balance in 10 years and start paying off the debt.
So you make a lot of good points, and it's really important because our viewers want to know about tax reform. I'm going to get to that in a second. So are you saying that you will be voting on a clean aid bill tomorrow? Are you going to tie it to the debt ceiling increase?
Well, Wednesday in the House, it will not be tied to anything. It'll just be the supplemental. It'll be almost $8 billion. We also have to deal with the continuing resolution later this month. That will allow us to move some money forward in there that will give FEMA some more money, almost $15 billion, to deal in the short time frame right now for Texas.
Is it true, though, that we were all worried about the funding for the border wall that the president has talked about? Now that we have this bigger pressing problem of the devastation from Harvey, that issue goes toward the end of the year. In terms of that continuing resolution, walk us through how the next couple of weeks looks in terms of the continuing resolution and the debt ceiling increase then.
We've got a lot of busy things happening here. So we have to deal with Harvey, we have the debt ceiling, we have a continuing resolution, which will be just about a 3-month continuing resolution. So you will deal with the wall a little later in the year. We have to finish off 8 more appropriation bills. We've got the budget to get done this month as well. And the budget is the beginning of tax reform because it allows us to go to reconciliation to start tax reform. Now, all that will get done this month. But for those members who get afraid and not want to tackle the tough issues, I say the sooner we do it, the stronger we are, and the more that we can get done moving forward and get to greater growth. Remember, Harvey is hit. We've got another hurricane coming. Texas, those families that have lost, our prayers are with you. Economically, Texas is hurting. Think about what an economic driver is Texas to the rest of the United States. You want to get growth going to be able to balance these budgets and actually pay down the debt.
Yeah. Now we all want to know if tax reform is going to happen in terms of moving the needle on economic growth. The president has been talking about tax reform. You and a lot of your colleagues have been out in force in August talking about the need to get tax reform done. The president's going to meet for the first time today with the so-called Big Six, your colleagues, along with the White House colleagues and Senator Orrin Hatch, Kevin Brady, Stephen Mnuchin, Mitch McConnell, Speaker Ryan, all meeting today. The administration has suggested a detailed tax plan would get through the House in October. What are your plans for tax reform, Congressman?
Well, this is a very good sign that they're meeting with the president now, because what we're doing is learning the lessons from health care, making sure the House, the Senate, and the administration is all on the same page. Look, we make policy in the world of politics. If there are elements of the tax reform that can pass the House but can't pass the Senate, we ought to work those differences out. That's why you saw the border adjustment coming out. This is why I am even a stronger believer that tax reform gets out of the House this year. And the meeting today is a good indication. You've got the committee chairs, you've got the leaders, and you've got the administration together working out the differences. We all know the way to make America stronger is economic growth.
Right.
For the last 8 years, we had some of the lowest growth we've ever had. And I always like to point this out. If you take the lowest year under the 8 years of Bill Clinton, the worst year under Bill Clinton is still higher than the highest year under Barack Obama. This is the real challenge for America, is getting tax reform done. We have the highest rates out there.
Yeah.
So we've got to deal with corporate rate. We've got trillions of dollars sitting in other countries. Bring it back to America and invest in America, or send it out in dividends to Americans. And then the small business, you got to deal with the pass-throughs.
What are the priorities then, Congressman? I mean, let's talk about what's most important in terms of any tax package. Because at this point, a lot of people are saying there's absolutely no way you're going to get total full tax reform done in the 12 days that you've got left this year that you're in session while the Senate is in session. So go down the priorities first. I know one of those priorities is lowering the corporate tax rate, yes?
Yes, but you can't just lower corporate rate without not dealing with the pass-throughs. Small businesses create more jobs than corporations do. So you've got to be able to lower that. You've got to simplify it, make it pro-growth. You've got 7 individual rates. Let's make those 3. Let's lower them. Let's do repatriation. Bring that money back into America. We're losing on that basis. That's a big investment to start out with. Simplify it as you go forward. People should be able to fill this out just simply on a postcard. Why do they have to go through all the difficulties? And the way you lower the rates, you take away the deductions. So you make it fair across the board for all.
Well, that sounds like tax reform. Dealing with deductions sounds like full-on tax reform, and that's my point. You've got congressmen and senators out there saying, I can't do this, I can't eliminate that deduction, I can't eliminate this deduction. My constituents aren't going to like that. So that debate is going to create the kind of fighting that we saw in health care, no?
No, and you know what? If a member is out there worried about taking a tough vote, maybe this isn't the right job for them. They've got to make decisions to make this country move forward, and that's what we're doing. The meeting at the White House is really the right meeting to do and the right indication that tax reform is happening. Watch as we move budget as well. Once we have budget done, that sets the motion for tax reform. This is something that America needs. We need growth in this country, more now than ever before in the process of where we're happening, especially after coming off of Harvey.
Yeah.
We've got to get the economics growing inside of America.
Yeah, I agree with you. I haven't heard much in terms of individual tax rates. I know you want to lower the corporate rate and the small and the pass-through, small business. Are you also committed to lowering individual people's tax rates?
Yes, and don't make it so confusing. Why do you have 7 individual tax rates? Just make it 3. And lower those. Anytime someone can keep more of their own earned money, they are smarter with how they use it than ever before. And I heard a little teaser that somehow we want to tax 401ks.
Yeah,
what would be the benefit of that? Why would you punish people when they're actually saving for their own retirement and they're not looking to government? You want to incentivize that even further.
All right,
Don't punish people who actually save their own money.
Exactly. This idea reportedly being floated to raise revenue for the tax bill by taxing the money that workers put into the 401k, that's off the table.
You know, my philosophy is you only tax something if you want people to do less of it. I want people to actually save more of their own money, direct where they're going to go. And what happens when they're doing that, they're putting money into the economy. That's going back forward, investing in businesses and growing, creating more jobs.
Before I move off of this subject, Congressman,
Sure.
Mark Meadows said you've got to have a bill on the president's desk by Thanksgiving. Are you expected to get these tax cuts done this year by Thanksgiving? You're going to have a bill on the president's desk?
Well, that's good news, because Mark Meadows is one of the individuals that's talking about not letting us move the budget forward. So I'm happy to hear Mark Meadows wants to see some of this stuff start moving